So my question is,
Yeah, hit me.
with the coaching and the program that you and I are going to be undertaking, we're delving into a lot of different areas, not just swim, bike, run, that kind of training. We're taking a holistic approach to the whole thing. So which of those areas, if you had to pick one, would you want all of your athletes to focus on more that they might traditionally neglect?
Oh, it's a great question.
You have to pick one.
Oh, age irrelevant, person, sex irrelevant.
Yeah, just out of the big picture, what is something that you think most people might not even know about or neglect that you think could have a big impact?
I want to say some things that's on the tip of my tongue. I'm trying to get the best one.
Cycle through a few of them if you want. Have a little think out loud.
I would start with the foundation. That's good. And as a subsection, just 2, sleep and food choices.
Right.
And under the food, I would say just check your protein. And then under that protein, what age are you? Because there's slightly different requirements.
So if anyone listening is stuck with where to go next, that's the most important thing you think they should focus on.
I reckon if you've got a really good foundation, if that is that's the first thing, and then you can just always add on because that's the exercise stress. But if your body's not really coping with macros day to day and like sleep, well, good luck.
Yeah, and everyone knows sleep's important, but I don't think people realise how important, especially for athletes recovering.
Yeah, and the consistency. They'll say, oh, I really need a good night's sleep tonight because I've got a big session tomorrow. And I think I used to do that. It's actually, lights out, it's actually like we know now, because thanks to people that are putting it more out there, those 3 good sleep books that I put out on my little sleep video that I've read, like it's consistency over like a massive period of time, and then your body learns it. And they've now linked heart disease with sleep, with cancer stuff. I mean, it's just ridiculous. But we're talking like, unfortunately, people that work night shifts, like less. I mean, the whole country would fall apart if we didn't have people that work night shifts. So it's like, okay, we can't stop liking night shifts, but the cost to the body, wow. Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah. Whew.
Yeah, great, thanks.
Bruce. Oh, I mean, don't feel pressured.
Where do we start?
Where do we end? Where do we start?
So we've known each other a long time. I've tried a lot of different approaches with you. I think that you've advocated over the years.
Yes.
Different diets.
And, I can see where you're going. Yeah.
And some have worked better than others. Let's say. Is there something that you think is kind of around the corner that hasn't hit yet, that maybe the science hasn't quite established as being the next maybe breakthrough point that...
Regarding like kind of nutrition and training balance? Or?
Yeah, well, just that ultimately is going to help maybe with the broader lifestyle, health, maintenance and performance generally. Do you think there's something that's just hasn't quite broken yet, but it's on the verge of sort of coming out?
I can only comment really on what I'm seeing evolving that is a bit out there, is the broader awareness that everyone's now giving to the gut microbiome, but the link to the brain. So there's been a lot of research now on, it's not new, gut microbiome of course has been around all the time, but it's now more of a everyday terminology linking that now with brain health. There was always quite a disconnect between brain and gut. I find it fascinating. I'm not an expert in the area. I listen to people. There's a naturopath that I work alongside that's writing a book on this, so that'll be great to get more of a grasp on it. But real life stresses with jobs and athletes in particular, kind of leading this fast life and training for 10 years, 12 years, quite reliant on sports nutrition, and then yo-yoing through different things, affecting their gut health, but then coming out, manifesting in problems later. So let's take that lower carb, higher fat approach that we certainly tried to implicate, and I learned from some guys around that area, obviously, and it worked quite well for fat adaptation with lab results and so forth. But if it's not followed quite well, you neglect the fiber and all the grains that support your gut bacteria, and that is quite missed. And I know I made a few mistakes there, which affected my digestion. And I had great results from it, but I didn't do it to lose weight. If quite the opposite, I was losing too much body fat. But the goal, the outcome, the context of why I was doing that was to push up fat oxidation and help the training not lose weight, but to then basically ride easier for the same input of heart power, so heart rate output. But there's an expense of that if you then just suddenly cut out, remove things. So long answer again, but I don't think there's anything around the corner because the human body, I think it's more, there's a lot more knowledge thanks to podcasts, this type of content, really clever people giving out a lot of content around, instead of holding it in, you've got to go see a doctor, this professor in gut microbiome. You wouldn't go there because you're like, I'll just go to my doctor because I've got a sore stomach I've got really loose bowels all the time. They'll say, maybe just stay off gluten for a bit because that got a lot of rap and, for a long period. That's a general practitioner doctor. They're dealing with so many multiple mechanisms in the human body. It was so complex. So I don't think we actually still know enough about nutrition. Again, it's just super complex. But if something's working for you and it's sustainable, I would stick to it, yeah. And then you move into your 40s, it changes, and then 50s. For example, your thirst reflex goes... So they're attributing all these older people falling, like hip fractures, to actually hydration. And you kind of go, it makes complete sense. Their thirst reflex goes, they're not drinking. For example, my father-in-law, he's in his 80s. I mean, we laugh. I've given him some pH 500 because, of course, he doesn't want to drink water, but he has wine every night, and he has like 4 cups of tea, and that's him. But the guy is like, the nurse is saying, look, you're dehydrated, like you really need to drink. He's like, I had some water this morning. He had a cup of water. So we give him some electrolytes, and that lasts a few days, and then he's back to square one. But when you're dehydrated, then everything knocks on, and he, potentially, bless him, might fall because it's the muscles that are dehydrated. So going off topic a bit, but like it's just it's awareness of, it's becoming more freely available, the advice that you don't have to go to a specialist. It's actually been given to you now. And that's what I find is evolution. I don't think there's anything around the corner, no, that's going to suddenly make us better than we are. I think it's just
the progression.
Recognizing that we all want convenience fast foods, and with that there's a cost of the more processes the food has gone through. That is not how we were 50 years ago, and that's the problem. The food companies are adapting to our demands of our life, and we are then buying it, and we're all guilty of it. But let's just go back to what Granny and Grandpa were doing. They're boiling up the chicken carcasses, making a broth. Everything was cooked from scratch. I know it takes a bit of time, but it's as you know, I'm always saying it's like a poor excuse as well. So, but as soon as I do think there's one, I'm going to share with you first. Because you asked me first.
That's good to know.
And I've known you for over a decade, so I will.
And I maybe need it quicker than other people, right? So
I've got my oldest client is 68, 69 this year.
Okay, maybe I'm not.
And he's like, no, I want to run a 4.5 hour London this year. I'm like, yeah, I reckon you can. That's brilliant. Lifestyle athlete, just cracking on. But thanks for the little Q&A, fireside. Fire in the middle. And that wraps up a lovely...